How's it going, guys? My name is Jimmy Champane, and today I'm here with another video on the Child's Play remake and the Child's Play TV show that's coming out next year. So MGM started the marketing run a few weeks ago. We've gotten some wallpapers, some posters. It's all pretty cheap stuff that gets people talking but really doesn't cost that much. But we've also gotten an image that basically spoils the ending of the movie. But besides that, it's been pretty easy to piece together the entire plot of this remake, which is pretty alarming. During this entire marketing run, Don Mancini has pretty much kept his mouth shut despite a couple jabs early on in the development of this movie, but other than that, he's been pretty quiet. But this week, he sat down with Mick Garris on his podcast Postmortem, and he pretty much just opened up and said how he actually feels about MGM remaking his movie. And on top of that, he also talked about the upcoming TV show and announced that we might see Glen and Glenda coming back, which is pretty awesome.
Just from having worked on Hannibal and Channel Zero, I just really enjoyed it, and I saw an opportunity to reinvent the franchise yet again. And it's just something that I really do think that it's one of the things that has kept the franchise alive and thriving for so long, is that we've reinvented it in different ways by making it a comedy and then back to horror. But the sheer storytelling real estate that doing 8 to 10 episodes gives us will allow us to delve into characters and relationships in a way that we're never afforded in just a 90-minute movie.
First up, yeah, you heard that correctly. Don Mancini wrote and produced episodes of Hannibal in season 3. And if you haven't seen Hannibal, you need to fix that. It's one of the best horror shows ever made, and objectively, one of the best network TV shows of all time. It was canceled way too soon. I've seen comments on my past Child's Play videos saying that Don Mancini deserves to lose this franchise because Cult of Chucky was bad, but really, if you think that, I don't think you're a true fan of the series, because you gotta look at Child's Play 1, 2, and 3, then you take a look at Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, then you take a look at Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. Now, if you take all of those films into context, only 2 of them were really bad, Seed of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, and there's a lot of people who like both out there. And on top of that, I think Don Mancini was onto something when he says the reason Chucky has endured for all of these decades is because he switched up the franchise with every decade that it's been around. Cult of Chucky is a much different movie than Bride of Chucky, and Bride of Chucky is a much different movie than the original Child's Play. And I really do think that's why we've seen so many Chucky movies that are largely pretty good. I was originally iffy on the idea of Chucky moving to TV, but if you look at the franchise and what Don Mancini has done to reinvent it every few years, I think this is a smart move. The guy knows what he's doing to keep Chucky relevant, so why aren't we giving him that chance? Well, I guess we kind of are, because the show is coming out anyway, but it just feels scummy that he has to go up against a theatrical movie. But speaking of that TV show, here's what he had to say about some past characters coming back.
We're going to be able to explore different avenues with different characters that are among fan favorites. You know, a lot of times people will say, oh, I'd love to see, you know, what's Tiffany's backstory, and what Tiffany and Charles Lee Ray, and what about Glen and Glenda? Just all these different avenues. Now we have a way of exploring all of this, and that's really exciting.
The cool thing about a TV show is that it's 8 to 10 hours long. Now, this could be a blessing or a curse for Child's Play because you have to fill 8 to 10 hours with Chucky's story, but they have a timeline that's been consistent throughout the past few decades to pull from. So they have a lot of characters, a lot of storylines, and a pretty weird setup at the end of Cult of Chucky that they can work with, which is good. And on top of that, there's people out there who like Glen and Glenda, there's people out there who like Tiffany, and people out there who like Jennifer Tilly. Because this series has gone on so long, it's added in a ton of characters, and there's fans of each character. So when you have 8 to 10 hours to work with, you can make everyone happy. So if you don't like that Glen and Glenda is the focus of one episode, you just come back next week and the story will move on without that character potentially. It's a really cool setup. That's how I feel about the Child's Play TV show, so let me know how you feel down in the comments below. But now let's get into what Mancini had to say about the MGM remake.
They asked David Kirshner and I if we wanted to be executive producers. We said no thank you because we have our ongoing thriving business with Chucky. Obviously my feelings were hurt, you know, that I had just done 2 movies, which, forgive me if I sound defensive, but like we're both like at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yep. So I felt like they're like, even though they didn't get theatrical releases, they premiered on Netflix, they were well regarded.
Absolutely.
And I did create the character and nurture the franchise for 3 fucking decades.
Right.
So when someone says like, oh yeah, we would love to have your name on the film, and it's like, it was hard not to feel like I was being patronized. Yeah. How would they feel if there was some legal loophole that allowed David Kirshner and I to swoop in and make our own It movie with our own version of Pennywise. And say like, oh, but hey guys, we'd love to put your names on it. They wouldn't like it. The people who are making that movie, they don't know how that's going to affect my livelihood. I mean, I hope, I still like do other things other than Chucky, but I think I've demonstrated that it's not just a paycheck to me. This is, or David, this is very personal to us. This is like, we're a family, and we have worked with the same actors and a lot of people behind the scenes for 30 years.
Before I get into this, I'm gonna be straight up and say that I feel one way on this, and I'm not gonna say that both sides have an argument. I'm gonna tell you how I feel, and if you feel differently, just tell me why down in the comments. You don't have to be a dick about it. With that being said, I totally agree with Don Mancini on this. I feel like it's impossible not to. MGM could have came out with the best script of all time, the most original Child's Play story ever, and I'd still be on his side. He came up with this character in college, and he's been able to get movies funded for that character for decades. And I've said decades a lot in this, but that really needs to sink in how long that is. That's like his entire life that he's been able to keep this character that he came up with when he was like 22 going. That's incredible. And as much as I don't like Cult of Chucky, he's right. I checked the Rotten Tomatoes for Curse and Cult of Chucky. Each of them have a lot of critical reviews, and for the most part, they're all positive. They both do have an 83%. So he went through all this work to reinvent the franchise once again and made 2 well-received movies, and he's getting screwed for it. That doesn't seem fair. MGM can act like they approached Don Mancini with altruistic reasons to get his approval, but we all know the only reason they're doing it is so they can put his name on it, say there's no bad blood, and make more money. That's what the studio's goal is, to make more money. Don Mancini's goal has always been to give people he loves jobs, like Brad Dourif, Fiona Dourif, Alex Vincent. He's creating this whole team of people that he can bring back, and they're not getting called up left and right to be in movies. He's giving them work, and I think that's awesome, and it's because he genuinely loves the character he created. So on the one hand, you have a corporation making a remake of a movie to make money because they own the rights to it, and then on the other hand, you have a guy who genuinely cares about something he created, and he cares about the people that have been involved with it for decades. How do you not side with that? I just don't understand. Finally, the silver lining here is that the TV show is coming out next year, whether or not the reboot happens, and I'm gonna be there day one watching it. I have cable through YouTube TV, and I will watch it live because I want to support this dude. And I think as a horror community, we should come together and support a guy who's been supporting us for decades. So whether or not you agree with me, let me know why down in the comments below, and just be nice about it because we'll have a conversation. I work really hard to answer every single comment because your opinion matters just as much as mine, but if you're a dick about it, your comment's getting deleted. It's kind of like a no tolerance policy there. That's just how my channel works. But if you're not subscribed, I really appreciate it if you did. I put out awesome horror videos a few times a week, and also hit the bell button so you get a notification because the subscribe button doesn't really work the same way it used to. It's kind of weird, but that's just how it is. Bye.